So this is my slide. Prospect of ionic liquid is green solvent. The name implies that ionic liquid is a green solvent. Green solvent means what? A solvent that will not harm our environment. Then last class we discuss why we choose chemistry, because we cannot live without chemistry. Because nowadays in this pandemic of COVID-19 disease, we are looking for drugs and vaccines, and these drugs and vaccines will be out of the chemist. It will be prepared by the chemist. It will be the product of chemical industry. So Leonardo da Vinci rightly expressed the essence of chemistry. When nature stops producing any new species, the chemist takes over. So nature is producing the COVID-19 virus, and the chemists are searching for drugs and vaccine which nature is not able to produce. So Leonardo da Vinci rightly explained the need of chemistry. But the concerns of chemistry, it is polluting our environment. There are many examples where chemistry is polluting our environment, it is destroying our environment. And it was first pointed out in Carl Russen's book, The Silent Spring, which discussed the negative impact of DDT. Still, I can show you two or more slides. This is the Cuyahoga River, which is so much polluted. All the industrial influence were pushed into this river, and the river caught fire. So green chemistry, it will help you to run the chemistry industry without destroying the environment. It can be called as a sustainable chemistry, and it utilizes a set of principles that reduces or eliminates the use or generation of hazardous substances in design, manufacture, and application of chemical products. So green chemistry will provide you with new route which will not harm our environment, or it will have a minimum impact on environment. And this green chemistry is practiced on the set of 12 principles, which is forwarded by Paul Anastas. So Paul Anastas is regarded as the father of green chemistry. So green chemistry is about reducing waste, reducing materials, because if you can decrease the number of steps, then the materials will also decrease. The decreasing hazards, decreasing risk, decreasing energy, and more effectively decreasing the cost. So we need green chemistry in this hour to decrease waste, to decrease materials, to decrease hazard, to decrease risk, to decrease energy, and to decrease cost. So these are the 12 principles of green chemistry. First of all, it says you have to prevent waste, then to control waste. Then second factor, that is the atom economy. That means green chemistry tells us to find out routes which will incorporate maximum number of reactant atoms in the product. And if all the atoms are present in the product, we say that it is 100% atom economy. Then we have another factor, that is the E factor, which is also used to measure the sustainability of a process. So less E factor, more greener is the process. Higher atom economy, more greener is the process. Then it states to employ less hazardous chemicals, etc., etc. So these 12 principles I have already discussed with you in our previous classes. So today we'll be discussing about ionic liquid. So our chemical process must be such that it does not generate waste. This is a process which is generating waste, and we are simply rejecting this process. We do not want this type of process which is generating a lot of waste. We want a process which do not generate waste. Now Aristotle's famous philosophy, no cupra nisi fluida, which means no reaction occurs in the absence of solvent. So in that time, pericyclic reactions were not known, because you know pericyclic reaction does not need solvent. Otherwise, other solvent, whether you carry substitution reaction or whether you carry elimination reaction, whether you carry addition reaction, whether you carry molecular rearrangement reaction, they all require organic solvent. So he said, no cupra, no reaction, nisi fluida in absence of solvent. So what we see, that suppose A and B are two reactant, A and B combine together to C, that is what we write in our exercise copy. But actually what is happening, the solvent plays an important part in this chemical reaction. The solvent affects A and B uniting to give C. So the solvent, here is A and B are reactant and these are the solvent molecule. So solvent has a profound impact on a chemical reaction. For example, you have seen the SN reactions and EN reactions. The nucleophilic substitution reaction takes place with aqueous alkali and elimination reaction takes place in presence of ethanolic alkali. So the medium impacts the chemical reaction. So solvent, it has got profound impact that in different solvent, the substance may look different. So it can affect everything, color, product and stability. So already we have discussed the stability of intermediate in polar solvent, non-polar solvent, etc. in our previous classes. Now what is happening with our organic solvent? The organic solvents which we are using, they are extremely inflammable. They easily catch fire. For example, if you use alcohol's boiling point is around 60 to 70 degrees centigrade. So you must be very careful while heating it. Otherwise, if you do not use a water bath, then the solvent may catch fire. Moreover, these solvent which have less boiling point, they get easily vaporized, and as a result, what we are doing when we are working in the laboratory with organic solvent, we are inhaling this solvent and we are breathing it. And next, what we are doing, these solvents are highly toxic, and once the reaction is over, sometimes we do not recycle it, we throw it in the basin, and through the basin it goes into the pond, and from the pond it may affect the groundwater. So these are the hazards which we are practicing in the laboratory by using normal organic solvents. So the organic solvents have high toxicity. They are toxic. Most of the organic solvents are carcinogenic. They are highly volatile. They are fire hazard because they are volatile and they are highly inflammable. They can easily catch fire. So there is an accidental hazard. And moreover, there is a cost factor. Because once we use the solvent, we then reject it, we pour it in the basin, and from the basin, it goes to the groundwater or to the river. And ultimately, it is polluting the water resources. So in UK, around 4,000 million pounds is spent per annum in this solvent. So these are some toxicity of organic solvent. Benzene, it is highly carcinogenic. Chloroform, it is a cancer suspect agent. Dichloromethane, it is a cancer suspect agent. DMF, it is teratogen irritant. THF, tetrahydrofuran. DMF, dimethylformamide. Ethyl acetate, acetonitrile, ether. These are all having health hazard as well as environmental hazards. Is it clear? Clear, Hussein? Okay,
Yes, sir.
pretty raised your hand. Okay. So our target as a chemist, green engineering, green solvent, green separation. Green engineering is the development and commercialization of industrial process that are economically feasible and reduce the risks to human health and environment. So once you discover a drug in the laboratory, nowadays what is happening? The drug testing is carried in laboratory. They are preparing vaccines for this pandemic COVID-19 in the laboratory. And once they get a green signal from the field testing, from the trial, then you need to produce industrially in high scale, in the say in the megaton. Then we need a process that will reduce the risks to human health and hazard, etc. So green solvent, for that we need a green solvent, because when you prepare a drug in the mega scale, you need lot of solvent, and more solvent means more environment pollution. So the chemists are in charge of a solvent which does not affect our product environment. So in the design of a chemical product and process that eliminate the use of generation of hazardous substance, so we need a green solvent which will not affect the environment. So what are green solvent? So till now we have found that the solvents we are using, they have low boiling point, and as a result they are more volatile, and more volatile means they are more inflammable, they can easily catch fire. So we need a green solvent. They should not be non-inflammable. Their boiling point must be more than 100 degrees centigrade. It must be non-hazardous. It must be non-toxic. And it must have no or low volatile organic compound. The boiling point must be more than 200 degrees centigrade. Otherwise, what will happen? If the boiling point is less, then what will happen? It will produce more vapor, and these vapors will be injected to the environment. These vapors will be injected to the atmosphere, and as a result, we'll be breathing in these solvents, and it will cause a lot of diseases in our body. So, moreover, these organic solvents must be biodegradable. Otherwise, like DDT, if it persists in nature, so after a few years, we will be finding their negative impacts. Now, one type of green solvent which we are now using, that is the ionic liquid. So ionic liquids are liquid salt. Already in the beginning of Koislu, I told you in the beginning that these are molten salt and can be used as a solvent. So normal solvent molecule like benzene, it contains a single molecule. Say water, single molecule. Benzene, single molecule. EHF, single molecule. But in ionic liquid, it is composed of cations and anions. And these ionic liquids, they do not evaporate. They are regarded as green solvent because their boiling point is high, and they can dissolve lot of things. So I'm studying how ionic liquid affect things dissolved in them to see if they can replace normal solvent. So what I will try to reach you that ionic liquid has the potential to replace the normal solvent, and ionic liquid has all the properties for which it can be called as a green solvent. Now this ionic liquid, as you already know, ionic compounds, they contain cation and anion, and these are the general cations and these are the general anions. So this is the history of ionic liquid. The first ionic liquid synthesized by Gabriel, it was in 1888. So ionic liquid means liquid ionic compound, and ionic compound means salt. So ionic liquid means liquid salt, or these are molten salt. And the first ionic liquid that was synthesized by Gabriel, it was ethanol ammonium nitrate, and it was melting point is around 52 to 55 degrees centigrade. So above 52 and 55 degrees centigrade, it will exist as liquid. The first ionic liquid is ethyl. RT means room temperature. So this is an ionic liquid, but 52 to 55 degrees centigrade is not room temperature. We regard room temperature as 25 degrees centigrade. That is the average room temperature. So ethanol ammonium nitrate, it will be not a liquid in the room temperature, but slightly above room temperature, around 52 to 55 degrees centigrade, it will exist as liquid. So it is called ionic liquid. So first RTIL, RTIL means room temperature ionic liquid, was ethyl ammonium nitrate. Its melting point is 12 degrees centigrade. So at room temperature, ethyl ammonium nitrate, it will exist as a liquid. So 1948, development of ionic liquid with chloroaluminate ion by Hartley. Then 1970s, so ionic liquid based on 1,3-dialkyl imidazolium or 1-alkyl pyridinium halides or trihalogen aluminate. So here the revolution started. So the revolution started from 1970. So 1888, the first ionic liquid was synthesized. In 1914, the first room temperature ionic liquid was synthesized. And from 1970, lot of ionic liquid were prepared in the laboratory, and their cations are either 1,3-dialkyl imidazolium ion or it is a 1-alkyl pyridinium ion, and the anion is different. So I will be discussing you with 1980, first publication in which ionic liquids were described as a reaction medium and catalyst for organisms. So these ionic liquids, they not only function as solvent, they also function as catalyst. And in 1980, the first paper was published where ionic liquid was used to synthesize organic compound. In 1992, Weeks and Jorka, weakly coordinating atoms. So these are the anions which are used in ionic liquids. So this is the cation. So most of the ionic liquids which we use, they contain this cation. So this part just do not take in account of this. This is the ethyl group. This is the butyl group. So it is a 1-ethyl, 1, 2, 3, 1-ethyl, 3-methyl imidazolium ion, and the anion is trifluoroborate. So we can call this ionic liquid as 1-ethyl, 3-methyl imidazolium tetrafluoroborate. So EMIM, E stands for ethyl, M stands for methyl, IM for imidazolium. So this is 1, this is 3. If you number it, from numbering 1, 2, 3, so it is 1-ethyl, 3-methyl imidazolium tetrafluoroborate. Then this is another ionic compound. So here you have the pyridinium ion. So we have a substituent 1, 2, 3, 4. That is butyl Okay, can you hear me? Kuna paisa? Can you hear me?
Sorry, এতিয়া ভয়েসটো আহিছিল মাজৰে গুছি গৈছিল অলপ।
তোমাৰ হেৰি নেটৱৰ্ক গণ্ডগোল হৈছিলে। ঠিক আছে, মই আকৌ আৰম্ভ কৰিছো হেৰিটো। Okay. So these are common ionic liquids. So in most of ionic liquid, the cation will be common. Either it is a ethyl, 1-ethyl, 3-methyl imidazolium ion, or it is 1-butyl pyridinium ion, and the anion is different. So EMIM, it stands for ethyl, 1-ethyl, 3-methyl imidazolium, and BPY stands for 1-butyl pyridinium. Now these are the properties of RTIL, means room temperature ionic liquid. These are salt. Already I told you they have cations composed of cation and anion, and the cation and anions are quite large in size. So when the cation and anion size increases, then the lattice energy decreases. So small cation and small anion will have high lattice energy, and when lattice energy increases, the melting point also increases. So in this room temperature ionic liquid, the cation and anions are quite large, and as a result, what happens? Their lattice energy is very low, and that is why their melting point is less than room temperature, and as a result, in room temperature, they exist as liquid. Freezing point below 100 degrees centigrade, liquidus range, that is boiling point is above 200 degrees centigrade, means up to 200 degrees centigrade it exists as liquid. Thermal stability is high, viscosity is higher than 100 centipoise. They are highly viscous liquid, etc. Now you see, this is an ionic liquid, and here the cation is, so it is 1, 2, 3, 4, it is a butyl, 1 butyl, 1, 2, 3, 1 butyl, 3 methyl imidazolium ion. And the anion is different. So when the anion differs, then their property also differs. So with the anion tetrafluoroborate, melting point is minus 82 degrees centigrade. With acetate ion, it is minus 50 degrees centigrade. And once the anion is different, their whole physical properties also differ. So what we can do, this is the main advantage of ionic liquid, then we can tailor make the properties of ionic liquid by using different types of anion. Is it clear? So by changing the anion, the physical property of ionic liquid changes. So melting point of ionic liquid, low range, their melting point is between minus 90 to 150 degrees centigrade. So that is why they are liquid at room temperature. So ionic liquids, they're very viscous. Water, viscosity of water at 20 degrees centigrade is around 1 centipoise. Toluene is 0.6 centipoise, and you see that is 1 butyl 3 methyl imidazolium tetrafluoroborate. It is 154 centipoise, and same cation but having a different anion, that is hexafluorophosphate. The viscosity is 371 centipoise. This is one of the major demerit of ionic liquid. So if you were asked what is the disadvantage of ionic liquid, already advantages I have told you. They have got low vapor pressure, they have got high boiling point, but the major demerit is they are highly viscous, and moreover they are highly expensive. Now you see again the water solubility. So this is an ionic liquid. Here the anion is hexafluorophosphate, and here the anion is tetrafluoroborate. Here this ionic liquid is not soluble in water, but this ionic liquid is soluble in water. So already I told you that all the physical properties of ionic liquid can be manipulated, can be changed by changing the ions. So result, so ionic liquids are non-volatiles and they may be used in highly vacuum. So they are non-volatile, they have got very high vapor pressure, they have got very high boiling point. As a result, you can use ionic liquid under vacuum. Otherwise, you cannot use ionic normal organic solvent in vacuum, because organic solvent, they have low boiling point, and if you use it in vacuum, their boiling point will still decrease, and ultimately they will vaporize at room temperature. So ionic liquids, they can be used in vacuum, and already I told you they can be called designer solvent. Why? Because by manipulating the anion, you can change the physical properties of ionic liquid, so they regarded as designer solvent. Now there are a lot of ionic reactions that are carried in ionic liquid. So this is a bromination of alcohol. You are using ether, so ether is a highly volatile and irritating, and you can replace ether and these acids by using this tertiary butyl bromide. Then you are using this ionic liquid, 1 propyl 3 methyl imidazolium bromide with tertiary butyl bromide, and sonication you are using ultrasound waves, and OH get replaced by Br. So these are the table. So the time is also very less, the reaction time is very less, and yield is also very less. So these are the, so you can replace normal organic solvent with ionic liquid. So these are few reactions which are carried in ionic liquid. These are DLLR reaction which are carried in ionic liquid. Again, here you are using 1-butyl, 3-methyl imidazolium. Then this is an DNN. These are DNNs. So these are some reactions which are carried in ionic liquid. Now, what are the demerits? It is expensive compared to other solvent, although cheaper versus heparin. So these are some demerits of ionic liquid. So demerits are price of ionic liquid is very high, viscosity is very high, and these are the negative impact. These are the disadvantages. And what are the advantages? Ecological solvent activity, you can recycle it. It is easily miscible with organic compound, and it is safe because it is non-volatile. So we are running out of time. I think I have skipped some of my slides. So I have 2-3 minutes left. So these are some reactions which are carried in ionic liquid. So this is a debromination reaction. You are carrying debromination of 1,2-dibromo compound, and you are using methanol, dichloromethane. These are normal organic solvent. You are refluxing it, and as a result, what will happen? There will be a lot of wastage of this solvent. And the same liquid reaction is carried in ionic liquid. That is 1-propyl methyl imidazolium tetrafluoroborate. They are irradiating with microwave, and it only takes around 2 to 5 minutes. But this reaction, it takes place hours. So what we have seen that these ionic liquids, they have the potential to replace the organic solvents, and these organic solvents, they have got lot of defects. They have got lot of demerits. The demerit is that organic solvents have low boiling point, and the prospect of ionic liquid is that they have high boiling point. Organic solvents are highly volatile. Ionic liquids, they are low volatile. Organic solvents, they have health hazard. Ionic liquid do not have health hazard because you are not inhaling them because of their low vapor pressure. But still we have some demerits in the sense that ionic liquids are very expensive. Then ionic liquids are highly viscous. Still, in coming years, we will be seeing that more ionic liquids will be discovered, more ionic liquids will be invented, and slowly, all the conventional organic solvents will be replaced by ionic liquid. So these are things we were discussing. So anybody have any question? So with this, we will be concluding the 6th semester classes, and I will send you the soft copy and some lecture notes in your WhatsApp number. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.